had to figure out what I was. And so really the combat spy thing is really sort of my invention, but it's the best way to describe what I did. My peers and all my intel people, there's a lot of those people, they would say, "You're not a spy." And I'm like, I get arrested overseas doing my job. What are they going to charge me with? And they're like, "Espionage." And I'm like, well, there you go. It makes me a spy. So I would just be a matter of fact about it. And I would tell people, like, if I engage with the locals, I'm like, "Are you a spy?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And if I ask you a question, you don't like, don't answer it. I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm here to help. And so we would go right back to work. I'm like, the second you don't like something, I'll leave. And so I had no problem with that.
Welcome in to Menfolk Journeys, the podcast of great conversations with men. I'm your host, Chris Foster, and we're going to explore how we wear this beautiful and confusing mantle of manhood in the 21st century. Look, I get it. In public life, a lot of men are knuckleheads. But in private life, we can be thoughtful and we can be reflective if we have the right conversation, if we feel comfortable talking about our story. And we all have a great story to tell. And we can all learn from those stories. We can learn about who we've been, who we are, and who we want to be. And that's why we're going to have this conversation, so we can learn from other men just like us. And today we're going to talk with my new friend Pete. He had a very interesting background and made a choice of a career where his life literally depended on him being aware and present and perceptive. It's also made him the man that he is. This is a marvelous conversation, incredible man. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome in to Menfolk Journeys. Well, all right. Well, Pete Turner, welcome in.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate being on things. I say this all the time to start, but it's really important. We were talking about Muppet Show off camera. I think Buddy Hackett might have been on the Muppet Show. Either way, I learned this from Jay Moore, who learned it from Buddy Hackett. And when you start something like this, you just start by being grateful because you don't know what someone else was doing 5 minutes ago before they turned this thing on. And so you look back up in the balcony, even if there's no balcony, and you go, "Hey, everybody," and you wave up there, and I wave to you. I just say, I'm so grateful to be able to do this, to be able to share this moment. However many people show up. Thank you all for taking the time to hang out with us. And I'm going to do my best to do my best. But it's so easy to get past what it means to put a show like this together, and for us to spend time. I could be doing 100 other things right now. I had an offer to do something else, and I'm like, no, I'm sticking, because the last time we didn't do it, I had to postpone on you. But it's neat to be able to do this, and I really appreciate you. I'm grateful. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, the gratitude's all mine, Mr. Turner. I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to spend with me. And, I love that idea, right? Because where you are, wherever you're doing, where you are is where you are.
Yeah.
Right. And as I get older, I become more appreciative of the moment that I'm in. Right. And it's not like I have to do something. I get to do something.
Yes.
I'm going to have a fantastic conversation with someone I've never met before. But in the 1 minute and 33 seconds in this broadcast and the 90 seconds prior to this broadcast, I already know we're going to have a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you mentioning that, because I think that we lose a lot of that, especially in 2025, especially after COVID. I thought we lost a lot of the skills of creating instant connections with people that are all around us, whether you're in their grocery store or whether you're running an errand. There are people there who are going through their own lives in these inner monologues, and everyone has their own life that they're living at that moment, and each one is valid as the other. Mm-hmm. And to connect with somebody just on a level to say, "Oh, I see you and I'm listening to you and we're connecting in a human way." Those are opportunities that happen all the time, and I don't think we take advantage of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Those opportunities are available. I love going to my grocery store. And I got this from my girlfriend, and I grew up in the same town. We were never in a couple until we became adults. But I never really had a home. I was always on the move. When I was younger, I had a home. But I mean, as an adult, I moved around quite a lot. And
let's stop you there. When did you consider yourself an adult? And when did you start moving around?
When did I consider myself? When did I become an adult? Are two different things. Um, I moved out when I was, gosh, was I 18? I guess I was 18 when I moved out.
Okay.
And I wasn't fully capable. I was proto-adult, but I mean, I lived like an adult. I didn't call my mommy and all that kind of stuff to get
Hmm.
help and everything, but I needed help, and so I would call her when I needed help and everything. But yeah, I would say 18 is when I moved out and I started being adult-like, and then uh, I don't know. I probably fully matured into adulthood sometime in my 40s because I was gone.
Okay.
Like when you're in combat, everything's done for you. Especially when you're a guy like me who goes out all the time. A lot of things are done for me. So I never cooked a roast. I never did my laundry. I never did dishes.
Mm.
Because all that stuff was done for me because of the nature of my job. So even like finance stuff, I just shot that out to somebody else. Whether it was a
Hmm.
professional military person or somebody else. And so like my mom might take care of my like when I got an engagement ring for my wife to be my daughter's mother, who we're not together anymore, but um, I didn't pick it out. I didn't shop for it. I didn't set up my credit card account. My mom did all that, right? Because I was
Huh.
gone. I was deployed. And so that's like the whole thing with a lot of my stuff was a lot of my adulting. And like, I didn't know we had to do this. I missed all these classes.
Right?
And so I had a lot of adult things that I did. I had adult tasks and responsibilities, but like the day to day stuff of like, what do you mean you just sweep once a week for the hell of it? Why would you do that? I have no idea. Like a total gorilla. And no offense, gorillas, but yeah, that was my life. So it was like in my 40s at some point, I was like, gosh, it's not just about me anymore. And I finally got my
Right.
ego under control more. And I allowed other things to be more, even though people could tell me, you're so selfish or whatever, right? Like my partners, my girlfriends, and everything. But I didn't mean I could understand it or hear it. I just couldn't. I hadn't
Right.
figured it out yet.
You know, that's a really interesting concept to talk about adulting, where you become an adult and you realize that your life's not about, well, not necessarily about you, right? You're
Right,
still living
right.
your life. I also think there are different ways to adult. And I want to
Mm,
get back to your military service and deployment. Firstly, thank you for your service.
thank you.
Um, and I want to talk about that because in a deployment environment, you're clearly an adult of some kind,
Right.
right? There are going to be 40, 50-year-olds who've managed households and cooked dinners and stuff like that who would not be an adult at all in the environments that you were in.
Yeah.
So as you start talking about it, Pete, I'm like, well, there are different ways to adult, right? There are
Right.
different kinds of adulting that we
Yeah.
do.
Sure.
Um, and I figured out when we had our children that it really sunk home to me that my life was no longer about me.
Yeah.
My life was suddenly about other people, and and it took me a while to really get to the place where I could enact that in an everyday moment.
Mm.
Because you think about what shit you want to do, right? Shit, I want to go surfing. I want to do this. I want to do that. Blah blah blah. I
Are you
want.
about to go surfing?
Um,
Oh man, let's go. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like, okay, well, actually, no. What do you guys need? What do I need to do for you? And I'm still working on that. Of course, I'm
Sure.
not. I could be better. So I love your definition of adulting. I think that is really intriguing. So walk me back when you're
Mm.
18. Did you start military service at 18?
No, I know. I had no idea, no intention. I did that after I graduated from college.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had a really good friend, and we lived about a mile apart, or not a mile, about an hour apart. And so I was like, let's just go do this. Let's move in together. And so we got a one-bedroom place, and it cost us nothing. I mean,
Sure.
like $300 a month, something like that. It was
Uh-huh.
ridiculous how little it was. And so we could have our just above minimum wage jobs, and we worked at. It was also wonderful. I mean, it was hard, but also like I was having a great time, and I wasn't even old enough to buy booze. So we got fake IDs and tried to buy booze, but weren't really into booze. But
Uh-huh.
we worked at Tower. Tower Records was like it's still one of the best jobs, if not the best job I ever had. It was so much
Huh.
fun. And if I had chosen that path and just stayed there, I would have worked in the record industry in all kinds of ways. There was 100 ways to make a career out of that place. But I never for once thought about it as a career because I was going to school and I was going to do other stuff and it just didn't matter to me. And yeah, so I was fortunate to have this great job with great friends built in, and you didn't have to have any money to have fun. You just needed to
Hmm.
be a cool. I don't know if you experienced Tower at all, like where you were at, but it was one of the coolest jobs. Like it's a job that they make movies about still to this day, just working
Okay.
at the record store. And it was the record store. Folks don't know, but like Tower
Is
was
this the tower in
everywhere.
Sacramento?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know it
Okay,
wasn't
I
at the tower in Sacramento, but I was at one of the Tower stores in
towers in
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like I could have been in the one in Helsinki. I could have been in the one they were everywhere. And
Okay.
you could make a life. Like if you decided to show any aptitude at that job, they would absolutely. The Solomon brothers were great, and they would put you to work in the warehouse. They would send you overseas, whatever it was. Like there was a real path there, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. So in my adulting, I already had a bunch of jobs when I got to 18, so I knew how to work. And 20 hours was nothing. Like, yeah, give me 35, and I'll still have
Hmm.
plenty of time to go to school and everything else. So I could work at what would be a good capacity for a proto adult, enough to keep myself alive. But yeah, man, those were fun days. Those were really fun days.
Yeah, I also love your phrase of proto adult. I've never heard that before, and I want to use it. It's kind of
Please.
like it's like you're before you're coming an adult. And
Yeah.
then, so tell me, what prompted you to go into military service? What was that decision like?
I couldn't find a job. I was going to be a TV radio. My degree's in TV radio, and so I was going to go become a sportscaster of some kind. And so I didn't
I could see
mind, like,
that.
yeah. And I was going to start at the bottom market, like what's the lowest market you can go to, and go in just any job, and then hopefully work my way into weekends, and then work my
Hmm.
way up. But I couldn't even get a start. Some of it was the time. Yeah, the economy wasn't great. Also, it was one of those times where we kind of shrunk the, hey, there's enough white dudes doing sports. Let's get some ladies in here. Let's get,
Sure.
and so that's all fine. Like that's just the
Yeah.
environment you grow up in. Um, and it's competitive. A lot of people want that job, and I just didn't have the whatever I needed to find a job. And I
Hmm.
tried and I tried and I tried and I tried. I tried other ways in, and it's funny. They There's a different time in college. This won't make sense for a lot of folks, but the counselors weren't there to really help you. They were there to like, oh, you have a problem? Okay. Here's, I don't
Right.
know,
They were there as responding to pressure and challenges rather than helping guide a career.
right. Yeah. 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 So I had no idea how to find a job. And so I didn't do an internship because guess what? I was working. And so I'm like,
Right.
well, I'm already working. And they're like, yeah, but you got to work in your field. You got to do an internship. I'm like, well, what does it pay? Well, it doesn't pay anything. You just get people coffee. And I'm like, I got to go get people coffee and not get paid for it. And that's going to help me get a job. It didn't
Right.
make any sense to me. And then I
Uh-huh.
graduated and I'm like, what do you mean I can't have an internship anymore? I'm like, now I have time because I'm not going to school. And they're like, no, no, we only do interns for that. I'm like, well, then how do I just get a job? They're like, well, you can't have a job. Like, well, all
Because you
right.
have no experience.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so but I still could get jobs. And so I had three jobs for a while. And I'm like, well, I'll just make
Uh-huh.
money.
Sure.
And I was doing fine. I wasn't poor. I wasn't rich. I lived at home still, but I wasn't trying to live at home. I slept at home. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what to do. And
Hmm.
I wasn't figuring it out. And I gave it a good long time. And then finally, I'm like, I got to figure something else out. I have to pivot. As much as I love sports and all this other stuff, I don't want to just wake up 20 years from now playing softball and working at Costco, which is one of the jobs
Right.
that I had. Nothing wrong with working at Costco, but that just wasn't what I was wanting to do. And so me and another dude, exact same situation, but he had better education. I'm like, if he can't get a job, how in the hell am I going to get a job?
Right.
And so he was like, I think I might join the army and become a spy. And I was like, really? Huh.
That is
I've never
so
even,
random.
I know. And we sat there in the early shift at Costco stocking shelves, and he talked to me about it. I'm like, I've been reading Clancy books. That seems like a hella cool career. Maybe I should just change everything. And so I don't know what he did. I don't remember his name. I don't remember anything else. He's just this one moment in my life. And if I probably could figure it out if I really tried. But if I ever figured it out, I'd be like, you know what? Our conversation changed how I saw the world. And so
Right.
I went to the recruiter and I said, listen, I don't need you to bug me. I'm an adult. I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm thinking about this and I'm just thinking about it. And he's like, all right, I don't care. I won't call you. Yeah, fine. Here's all your options. And we worked all that out. And I took the tests and everything. And he's like, listen, you did really well on your tests. Any job in this big stack of books, it's all yours. What do you want to do? And then we kind of sorted it out and we landed on counterintelligence. And
Hmm.
and I was like, well, I don't know. Okay, let me go think about it now. And he's like, all right, whatever. I don't care. I know I'm not going to call you.
Right.
And so he
Well,
never bugged me once. And if he would have called me once, I would have quit to spite him, right? But he didn't.
of course, because you told him not to. But what I want to get back to, I want you to continue your story, but
Yeah,
just a moment. We just said at the very beginning of our conversation how grateful you were for this moment, how
yeah,
grateful you were for having it this time right here, right now. Well, Peter, you were paying attention that moment, unloading stuff at Costco.
yeah,
When this guy mentioned that, there was something that happened where you were bubbling or thinking about this internally about a pivot, but you paid attention enough
yeah.
in that moment
Yes.
to let that comment sink in, and it changed your life.
Yeah. It also was a cliff I could jump off of. And for whatever reason, I
Ah.
am wired like, well, you said you got a cliff. Like when you said surfing, I'm like, I'll go surf. I can't even surf. I love water, but but that's how I'm wired. And it's not so much FOMO, it's just here's something crazy to go do. My life has just always wound up that way. Like
Huh.
back when back when I was more of an athlete, like if someone called me like, hey, do you want to come play basketball? Yes. Trail of dust gone,
Off.
right?
Right.
All the time. Whatever it was, I wanted to go do it. And I love to be out of the house doing things, which kind of
And
worked
so
into
this
my
guy
pivot.
shows you this stack of books, and you're like, okay, pick and
Yeah,
choose.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. We were just talking about it, and he had, like I said, he had a better high school, he had a better college, he had better grades. And I was like, man, I really don't know what I'm gonna do about this, man, because I was still trying to like figure out how to do the media thing, but I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what it was gonna be, and I knew it was gonna take me longer than I thought. And yeah, and so I found this path with the military, and I didn't know what I was going to do even still. And softball season was gearing up. We were going to start playing again. Our team was good the year before, and I ran the team. And I was like, well, if I stayed through softball season, but I was like, I probably shouldn't. I probably should just get moving on. What can I do now? And it was like late winter, early spring time frame. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know. So I was pushing carts at Costco out in the rain, and I'm like, God damn it! I didn't go to school to push carts in the rain. And for sure, if I would have stuck around for 6 more months at Costco, they would have bumped me up to something else.
Sure.
But I'm like, no, like this is not what I signed up for. I have to do something else. I have this opportunity. And here's the other thing that happened. My friend Dave was Mormon, but just barely Mormon, like just barely. He loved weed, he loved acid, all that kind of stuff, right? And so he's like, you know what? I got to get my head on straight. I'm going to go do my mission. It's 2 years. I can do 2 years. It's no big deal. And that got me thinking the same way. And I'm like, 2 years? Yeah, that's not that big of a deal. I can go, and then I will have done something.
Right.
And so his going kind of gave me permission to really consider it. And so I pushed carts in the
Hmm.
rain that one day, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So I went from not knowing, never thinking about it, to a month later in the service. It
Wow.
was that fast. Yeah. But also I was totally ready for the pivot. I just had to unlock it in front of me. And I didn't tell my friends or anybody because I didn't want their influence. I just wanted to sort it out for
Right.
myself. And the,
Yeah.
the wheels spun around and I stopped and there was an avenue there and it's like, you can go this way. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going that way.
Nice. And I love that. So you said, okay, I can do this. And you know what I like about that so much, Pete, is that it's such an intentional choice. It's not like you fell into something or, you didn't know what you were doing and you got hired and you just stayed on and this happened and blah, blah, blah. That was such a choice for you.
Yeah.
And so you choose to go into the military actively, eyes wide open, and saying, this is my new path.
Yeah.
So when you landed there and started to move into the role that you did, um, what was your experience like? How did you figure out what you were supposed to do?
I had no idea anything about the military. I had one uncle that I hardly ever saw that was in the military. So I knew nothing. And everybody kept saying, why aren't you an officer? You've got a degree. Because that was pretty rare. And I'm like, I don't
Uh
know.
huh.
I just decided to do this now. I don't even know. I have a good answer for that. I had to learn all of the ranks, all of the structure, all of these rules, and all of these sayings and all this stuff. But I'm pretty smart. I have a really good memory. And so I just put my face in that book and just started memorizing the common task book, just started memorizing, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I'm pretty I'm pretty competitive. And so you'll probably hear me say this several times, like I just want to destroy my competition. I don't even want
Uh
to give
huh.
them a chance to breathe. And it's not that I'm type A, it's not that I'm hard to get along with, but there's something in me where I'm like, look, I already know I'm faster than you. Now I'm going to go run in front of you a little slower and just get right in front of you. And then I'm going to look back and be like, see ya, and just let you know who you're dealing with, right? And I'm not even the world's greatest athlete, but like I was telling the guy yesterday, like if we're playing basketball, and I was pretty good at basketball, I could pass and everything. But if you went and you had a breakaway and you thought you were going to dunk clean, like I was coming. You dunk on me all you want, I don't care. But never forget, I am right there behind you. I'm not going to quit, you know. And
All
so
right.
that was the kind of guy I was. That worked at basic training. That it worked really well. And
Hmm.
so we get there, and I get there on day one. Usually you get there like on what they call day zero. And so you're 0, day 0, day 0, day 0 until everybody gets there, and then day one. So I got there on day one when basically it already started. So everybody else has a leg up on me of 2 to 8 days, right? And I'm just trying to
Hmm.
memorize this book, and I don't know what the ranks look like. I'm freaking, but I'm learning it, right? And so when I'm in my first basic training meal line, we're all standing at this position called parade rest. It's kind of like standing at attention, but you have your arms folded behind your back, and we're all nuts to butts. So we're just like touching the dude in front of you, because even though we had all the room in the world, that's the rules. You just got to smash into the dude in front of you and stand there, take 2 steps, take 2 steps, and then as we were doing that, the drill sergeant was quizzing us on things we had to know. They had all been through this drill a couple times, but the guys like me who just gotten there had never seen this before. And so I'm listening to what he's saying. I'm like, okay, all right. And if you get it wrong, it's no big deal. You just go to the back of the line. But I want to eat and I want to get it right. And so, and the drill sergeants know that I'm new. And so they come up and he throws a question at me. I forget what the question was, and I nailed it because he had asked someone 5 people before. And he's like, got his scowl and looks at me. Wait a second. Drop on. He went on to the next guy. And he was the head drill. And so that stuck out in his mind. He's like, this dude's smart. And then because I had a degree, I could do this thing called head count. And that's when you stand at the chow hall and you just mark everybody that comes in. But they wanted you to have a degree because, like, it was not a very important job, but a job that nobody else needed to do. So us dummies, we got to go do it. But then he's like, wait, you got a degree and you knew who your brigade sergeant major was. It was some kind of thing like a rank person I had to know.
Okay.
And he's like, you're paying attention. And I'm like, I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to learn, you know. And every time he saw me, because we were supposed to, everywhere you went, you had to run. And well, I'm fast. And so I'd be running everywhere. And he would send me on missions. I need you to run over here. Going, you know, and I'd be back, and they loved that. I didn't do great at basic. I didn't do anything, but I stood out in a positive way, and they never had to
Hmm.
worry about me. And so that was like my first thing where like I can do this. Like even though I'm learning everything and I know nothing, this is all learnable. This is all knowable. I'm an adult enough, because I'm 24, right, that I realized they've got a schedule. So I started advising my peers. You know, like the drills would walk around and they'd take their hat off and they'd look at the hat, and in the hat was their schedule where they had to be, you know, when they had to be there. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. They can't mess with us if we're out of time. Like we're going to march everywhere we go. We're not going to get away with anything. But if they've got time to kill, we're going to be doing push-ups and jumping jacks. And so
Right.
I would tell these guys, and they're all terrified because they've been yelled at like my dad yelled at me. So you yell at me all you want. I'm 24. I don't care about that. And so I'm like, ask questions. They're like, don't shut up, don't talk. And I'm like, ask questions because they have time to kill. And they finally like started catching on. And so it became a thing. Like we would all ask one question, and we'd watch the clock. When the clock got to like 10 minutes before, we'd stop asking questions. And they'd be like,
Sure.
all right, we got to hurry up and go. And I'm like, told you, motherfuckers, ask questions. And so we would just fill that
But
hour,
see,
you know?
even then, you strike me someone, Pete, or Peter. What do you prefer? Do you
Pete
care?
is what I go by, but Peter's fine. It's my name still.
No, Pete's
But Pete
fine.
is what I
I'll
do.
call
Yeah.
you Pete. So Pete, you do strike me though as someone innately who pays attention, right?
Yes.
There are some people who just go through and live life without being present.
Yeah.
Have you always paid attention your whole life, like just watching things and watching people? Or is this a learned
Maybe.
behavior?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit of
Okay.
both. I do pay
Uh,
attention to things. I clock things a lot, you know, and I'm like, oh, look at that. That's interesting. And then I save it,
okay.
you know, and look, I'm not a
Okay.
super genius, but there's things in there, and then I'll remember these things.
Sure. Of
We're
course.
talking about 1994 right now, right? That's 30 years
Yeah.
ago, man, right? But I
Yeah.
remember a lot of basic training because you're locked in and you're doing things. And then once you kind of get the vibe in certain areas, you're fine. But there were times when I would compete hard as hell. The other times I'd back off. Other times where I was like, I need to be a leader here, you know? And so I
Hmm.
was paying attention. I also knew that they have a basic job, and they kept telling us like we have a basic job here. All right, all we need you guys to do is be able to hit enough targets. We need you to throw a grenade. We need you to pass all the tasks in the common task book that we're going to constantly practice these things. You do those
Okay.
3 things, you're going to be fine. They didn't say that in the way I said it. They're like, listen, I'm like, oh, this is pretty simple. And if you can do these things, they don't mess with us. And so I'm like, how many
Right.
of these guys can I get squared away? And so I would find guys that were messed up, and I'm like, hey, slow down. Let's just do it like this, like this. You'll get it. Let's work on it again. And so without trying to be a leader, I was like, here's how we get the man off our backs and we get a
Sure.
little bit more ease, right? And so that's how I got to basic, was just trying to be invisible, trying to be competent, trying to get my friends competent, and trying to get us over the hump, and kind of learn the lessons that they were throwing at us. Because if we learned a little something every day, they left us alone. And there was a lot to learn. Like, you
Yeah,
have to lock your stuff
even
up, make your bed, all that shit. Yeah.
but even that, Pete, you assess the situation, right? You looked at how things were operating, and
Right.
instead of just responding to what the drill sergeant said in that moment, you were like, no, I actually understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to get us all up to a certain level because we're going as a cohort.
Right.
And the best way for all of us to have the easiest, stressless time possible in basic training is to do everything that you want us to do.
Yeah.
But we do it in an organized and thoughtful way. And if someone needs some help, you just proactively help. And as a cohort, guys, let's think about this. So to me, that says a lot about you as a person, where you were, maybe it was because you were a little bit more mature, right? At 24 is very different than 18.
For sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Very different. And you might have seen yourself as kind of at the ripe old age of 24, the elder statesman of your basic training cohort, right? But it's still at that point, you're like, okay, guys, this is how we can manage this situation.
Yeah.
Again, paying attention. Now, then tell me now, is this the thinking and the approach that you took when you actually went into the field and you got your commission and your mission?
I didn't get a commission. That's a different kind of person than me. I was a non-commissioned officer.
Okay, non-commissioned officer, NCO.
Just means I was like more of a technician and a worker than I was a organizational leader. So like the officers, they get the task, and they say, here's the task. And then the next level of leaders are like, all right, here's how we're going to do this task, everybody. And then you got the guys who are like, oh, we do the tasks. So I was, for most of my career, I was the task doing guy.
Got it.
So what was your question again?
The question was, did you take that approach when you finally got your tasks? I
took a variety of approaches, and some of them were terrible.
Okay.
Because when I got to the regular Army, right, like I was no longer in training, I was still hyper competitive, and I wanted to go after promotions and all these things. I was motivated, and nobody in my field in intel, we struggle with leadership, because everybody's really smart. And so everybody thinks they're smarter than everybody else. And when a guy like me shows up who's physical, athletic, smart, I was in training for the first section of my time in the regular Army, which means I had like access to everybody's scores on stuff and everything else. And I would process paperwork. And it was really kind of a dumb job. That wasn't really a job, but that was my job. And I would see our PT scores. I'm like, who is that? Because you can't quite see. And then when I would move the thing, I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh, shoot. Wow. Ooh. And I mean, the whole out of 1,000 people, I'm like one of the top 5 dudes, and
that's
right
awesome.
off of the top guy. Right. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm crushing this stuff. So I wanted to crush everybody. I already was crushing them with that, and I could shoot well enough, and I could throw, and all these other things that you needed to be able to do in the military. But that didn't necessarily endear me to the leaders, because they wanted me in their section because I was self-motivated. That would give them a good leadership block, but they didn't actually know how to lead me. And so I was a bit of like a wild thoroughbred that hadn't been broken. And I was with a bunch of plow horses who were trying to have slow, steady careers, and I made them uncomfortable. And they would tell me as such.
Interesting.
Like, you have a bad attitude.
At least they were honest with you.
Well, yeah, in a backstabbing kind of way. And other people would tell me, like, yeah, so-and-so doesn't really like you. And I'm like, why? And it's like, I don't know, it's your attitude. I'm like, what's wrong with my attitude? Like, you're doing it right now. And I'm like, I am? I don't even know what I'm doing, And so I was just very aggressive, and I was in a hurry, and nobody who was my leader knew how to deal with that. And listen, I'll admit, like, I was raw. I was bony. I was hard to manage, but other people in the unit, and this is years later, like, oh, Pete, I saw you. I wished you were in my section. I knew exactly what
Right.
to do with you. And I'm like, well, why didn't
Right.
you come get me? He's like, doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like,
That is interesting where, in business, managers are asked to manage people differently,
right.
right? I've got maybe an aggressive superstar, or I've got, what's called kind of, and there's like this thing in business like a disc personality, right? There's a
Hmm.
driver, there's an influencer, and if I'm a driver, I know about this driver, I know what motivates this driver, so I'm going to treat this driver a little bit differently than I'll treat the influencer,
Yeah.
or treat the one who does data, or that's kind of the introvert, right? I'm going to treat them differently. I would have thought that in the military they would understand that if they've got a talent, they would know how to handle that. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's a bad assumption on my part.
What I've learned post-military from people who were also in the military at the same time, like, oh, Pete, you were just in a bad unit. Like that's not how it works in infantry. That's not how it works in
Uh,
field artillery. And I'm like,
uh,
oh, like, yeah, we would have taken you and gotten you over to the Green Berets, and we would have got you trained up for that, and we would have sent you
right.
on your way because you're geared for that. And here's what ultimately happens: I made myself into, without knowing it in design, I made myself into a special forces person. I don't have a
Hmm.
tab, I don't have a hat, I don't have any of those things, but I was someone that could reliably go and work with those guys, and they would never even think twice about it. And I
Hmm.
knew the lingo. I spoke their language. I moved and acted like they did. And I'm like, oh, these are the guys that I should have been with. But I also had a
Sure.
great job. And so I never really fully tried to transfer over. Like
Hmm.
anybody can go to the recruitment for Delta Force. Most everybody doesn't get through, right? And so I was just at the edge where like I could apply if I had the right kind of rank, and nobody put me on a fast track for that rank. And like, get him over to Delta. So if I would have had those steps, maybe I would have gone to Delta Force, and maybe I wouldn't have made it. Probably because most people don't. Maybe I would have gone to Green Berets. Maybe I would have transferred over to the SEALs. All of that was possible if I'd had the right kind of leader that saw that in me. Instead, I
Right.
inspired other responses, and I had to teach myself. I hate to say dumb down, but I had to dumb down my actions. Like there's something I do, like my resting Pete face makes people upset and think I'm aloof and not paying attention, even though it's all up there, right? And so here's what I started doing. I started writing whenever I was in a class and they were giving me, it's so mundane, it's so boring, but I'm hearing everything they're saying. And so I would write down every president's name, every vice president's name, every state capital, wherever it was, right? I would make these lists and it would look like I was just furiously taking notes. And what I was doing was acting engaged. I was completely acting. I was still getting what was needed to
Yeah.
got out of the class, but I no longer struggled with, oh, you're not even taking notes. And I'm like, all right, I'll take notes.
Right. Right.
So
No,
it's
you figured that out, right? And
yeah,
you figured out how to create that impression. I think it's interesting too that again, there's that self awareness where you realize that where you were and where you could be and maybe should be didn't align. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, how do I figure out where I can get the most out of where I am? But you mentioned earlier, and even in your conversation guide, that you ended up becoming a combat spy.
yeah.
Now, I have to tell you, you're a unicorn in my life because I've never known or met anybody with the title of combat spy. I am like,
Yeah.
who is this
I know.
unicorn crazy person? That's incredible.
It,
So, how did that happen?
it's I had to figure out what I was. And so really the combat spy thing is really sort of my invention, but it's the best way to describe what I did. My peers and all my intel people, there's a lot of those people, they would say, you're not a spy. And I'm like, I get arrested overseas doing my job. What are they going to charge me with? And they're like, espionage. And I'm like, it makes me a
Right,
spy. So
right.
I would just be a matter of fact about it. And I would tell people, like, if I engage with the locals, I'm like, are you a spy? And I'm like, yes, I am. And if I ask you a question to you don't like, don't answer it. I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm here to help. And so we would go right back to work. And I'm like, the second you don't like something, just I'll leave. And so I had no problem with that.
That is such a what you just said to me is very remarkable.
Hmm.
That really that you're and it comes naturally to you, but your approach is just full honesty of my mission is to help you. Are you a spy? Yeah, and I'm here to help you.
Hmm.
I think that must have been very disarming for those folks to have you come back to them and talk with them so honestly and authentically.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to learn that. Um,
Uh,
so I deployed to Bosnia. This is kind of what saved me in Germany, and I was doing fine, but it wasn't going as well as it could. And what I didn't know was I was built for going to places like Bosnia and working in dangerous places. That's where I needed to be. And so all of
Hmm.
that Delta and Green Beret was me casting a battle. What do I need to be? What do I need to be? And then it became the thing I needed to be, but I wasn't any good at it yet. And so what we had to do was leave the camp every day and talk to people and engage with people in different places doing different things, and just being able to talk to anyone about anything. And I was good at that. And
Hmm.
so as I realized that like the things that I'm doing seem mundane to me, and I always say like if you saw me working, you wouldn't even know I was just messing around. But there's design in everything I'm doing, and it only got cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. My design just got. I always talk about like my bonsai tree of life. I'd snipped off all the branches and I just had a stick, like the most simple thing ever, and that was how I learned to build my craft. And so I was great at leaving the wire. I wasn't intimidated by that. I knew how to run. I knew how to shoot. I was in great shape. So I didn't get fatigued like other people did. And that made me
Hmm.
valuable on a small team because I could do the work of several people. Because I could also I was one of the guys in my unit who was one of the donkeys, like, oh, we got to carry this heavy thing. Give it to me. I'll carry it. Whatever. I'll go because I'm not a frail person. I'm a stout
Right.
person. And so, whatever it was, whatever I needed doing, I could do it. So I didn't mind all of that part of the work. So even though we were overworked and understaffed, that's fine for me. That's perfect. And I'm away from the flagpole. And so my day
Yeah.
to day runnings arounds aren't going to drive people crazy. And I can just deliver repeatedly, like a metronome, all the time
Right.
with whatever needs to be delivered.
Well, and even that started for me, that kind of is this running theme in your life. It's almost like a through line where, I use this sometimes. Well, Newton's laws of physics says that objects in motion tend to stay in motion,
That's
right?
right.
There are people
Yeah.
like that. There are people that emit a kind of energy where they are paying attention to the activities they're doing, but they're always being active in some kind of thing,
Yep.
right? And I can see actually, like you said earlier, for career military folks who wanted to take things slow and kind of have a long career, you come in like a shooting star, and they're like, I have no idea what to do with you. We've got to point you someplace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right.
So going out into the field like that seems to me like an absolutely perfect channel
Yeah.
for you to
Yeah.
be the most authentic self you could be, right? I'm great
Yeah.
with people. I'm paying attention to this moment. I'm connecting with you on a level. I'm super honest with you, but you're one of 100 things I'm doing today. We'll be right back.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And all of that passion, all of that energy, and I'm not a spaz, but I'm a powerful person. And so what I realized was that, and this took a long time, and it got even better as I got deeper into what I was doing. But if I could amplify whatever I was already doing, so if I could, like, when you're a spy and you're on an American camp, nobody knows who you are and what you're doing, and they don't trust you. Even if I wasn't
Mm.
a spy, they just don't know who I am and what I'm doing, and so they don't trust me. So it's kind of a double trust problem. And so the best way to solve that is to engage with those people, especially if they're senior. Like junior guys, hey, you'll figure it out, or you'll get told what we are. And actually, let me tell you a quick story about this. So we worked hard. We worked hard, 20-hour days normal all the time, and so
20-hour days.
easy, easy,
Bro,
easy.
those are
Yeah,
long days. That's
we'll, yeah,
that's significant.
we would go out and patrol, and every patrol equals equals a report. You got to write a report. There's hours there. There's pre-hours, but to prepare for the patrol. So all
All right,
this
hold on,
work.
Pete. You're cutting out a little bit.
Mm,
Can you
okay.
repeat what you just said? You cut out. You froze out for a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Great.
Let me take my phone off of Wi-Fi. Okay, so all of the work that we did had to be done by us because there wasn't a whole unit. It was a small team, and the work has to be done by certain people. So my partner and I, Greg, we were the ones that had to do all of the basic work, and our team was comprised of someone who was an interpreter, and that was their only job, and someone who was our technician, and her job was interrogation, not counterintelligence. We're kin, but we're not the same thing. So she's following
Mm-hmm.
our boss's lead, and he was the one who knew what to do. And he's like, listen, I've got to do all this other stuff. So you guys are going to have to do all the other work. And it was a lot of work. And so it would be 20-hour days. So we had one of these long days. We've been
Wow.
out late and we've been drinking. And so the next day, Miss Smith, Gina, she's our boss. She's like, everybody just chill out. We'll work later in the day if we work at all today because you guys need a break. Because we would go hard. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
all the other units had a day like this too. We just didn't always get one because we had more work than we had people. And
Uh-huh.
so me and Greg were laying out like MASH, just chilling, nurse center hangover, whatever that we had. And that all sounds fun. And nobody else is having this kind of fun. And we don't make a big deal about it because it makes people freak out. And people got mad at us. They were like, look at those guys lazing about. Because that's all they ever saw because they couldn't see us work because we were never there.
Because you were
And
never there. They only saw you in your R&R because when you were working, you were always off base.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so we had realized pretty early on that we had to survive because people liked us on the camp. And people were always
Ah.
coming for us because we were something they didn't understand. Everybody else has a real Army job. We have this crazy job. And
Mm-hmm.
so they have a big staff meeting at the end of the day. And we're on the other side of the wall, like in a closet, but it's now our office, behind all of the officers who are working. Because we work directly for the commander. So we're always talking to the commander. And they're having their big meeting. And Miss Smith is out there. She's an officer. So she's taking care of all of that. And the chemical unit, the chemical guys have no job. There's no chemical threat there. So they have to invent work for themselves. And so they're doing all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of extra work in support of the camp. It's not very exciting or sexy for them. And their officer, who's pretty junior, stands up and it's like, those guys, pointing like at Miss Smith, they don't pull their weight. They don't do enough around here. What he doesn't realize is that we're not even allowed by regulation to work with these guys because we have to investigate them. And so we don't do things like fill sandbags and stand guard. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough of us to go around anyhow. And Miss Smith knew how to handle all this. And so she's like, you have no idea what we do you? And that guy's like, well, no, I don't think you do anything. She's like, well, let me tell you something. These guys work hard. And they belong to me. You got a problem with what they're doing? You don't come up here in this meeting and talk about it in front of everybody. You come talk to me. And if you guys want a better job, they should get better GT scores like my guys do because they work directly for the boss and he's happy with what we're doing. And then the boss goes, yeah, that's right. I'm happy with these guys. And everybody shut the hell up. And they never
Nice.
again came after us. But
There you go.
she had a lot of protection. She was black. She was female. She had the kind of rank that no one could touch. Even though she was low ranking in that branch,
Mm-hmm.
no one else could touch her. And so she didn't need anybody's approval. And she had not a actual, but she had a big ass that could be chewed on. And she's like, chew on that ass all you want. You're not going to
Right.
change my mind. I know what I'm doing. And so she was a great leader. She left us alone. She kept us inside the bounds.
Yeah,
She
but see,
smacked our boss
that's
back.
exactly what you just said. She was a great leader. She
Yeah,
understood your personality. She understood your aptitude,
right.
and she knew that you don't actually put unicorns in a pen. You let unicorns go out to the pasture and do what they're going to do because
That's
they're
right.
just the unicorns, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and so, I guess a question that I would have for you is, as you started to meet people and go out, if you're in Bosnia, it's a totally different country, and you're meeting lots of different people from different
sure.
places. What kind of universal, I don't know, truths did you learn about
Sure.
people? Because I've never met someone I mean, I would
Yeah.
think that there's commonalities, but especially in a conflict zone like that, it must impact folks. But what did you learn about
Oh, yeah.
these people, and what did you learn about yourself?
It's a critical thing to understand in my field is what are the lowest common denominators, like the social, emotional, cultural things that are just common to everybody. Here are some truths. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Everybody hates cancer. Everybody wants
Mm,
their kids to do better than they did.
yeah.
Everybody who has struggles has struggles. Doesn't matter if they have rich people problems or poor people problems. They have problems, and if you listen to them talk about their problems, there's going to be a chance for affinity. Maybe it doesn't work out, but you listen to them and you can understand and relate. And if you can relate, and I call it fence building, like you're just building a fence, and then you just slowly, it's like, how do you guys do this? How do I do that? How do
Mm,
you guys do this? And all of a sudden you connect your fences in a way that's natural. You're not purposely trying to influence somebody. And all this took me years to kind of figure out so I could explain it, but it was what I naturally did. I just got better and better and better at it. But
sure.
but these are the real things that make a difference. Folks just want to be folks. And if you start off by letting people be folks, even if it's uncomfortable, it's not my job to change who they are and how they do it. And if I can use their culture to my advantage to accomplish my mission, that's way easier on them than it is for me to say, you will do things my way. It's the Army way, and that's the only
Hmm.
way we do it. And I made a lot of money, not figuratively, by just mastering that figuring
I
out how to
love
let
that.
folks be folks.
Letting folks be folks, that is, it's an interesting thing, Pete, because I think it's hard for people. I think some people look at other folks and they want to change them,
Yeah,
or they want to persuade them. They want them to think the way they do, versus letting them be themselves. I mean, we all have a right to our own minds, right? One of the beautiful things
sure.
about the human condition is I think my own thoughts, and I'm the only one that's thinking my thoughts, right? Because it's
Yeah,
just me,
yeah,
right? Um, and for you to innately learn, or maybe you just learned it over practice, the art of cultivating connection,
yeah,
right, to
yeah,
other people. You let them be themselves, and if they're comfortable being themselves with you, man, that makes it a lot easier to have a connection.
yeah. Yeah, that's the crux of it. Now, all that sounds easy when I explain it. Believe me, I had to learn it in real time. I didn't know what books to read, and so yeah, it's uncomfortable when you sit there and you're talking to a warlord and you're like, oh my God, this guy's a warlord. He kills people, you know, and then you have to smile like, hey, I'm having a good time here. But that's the job, and that's why, like, even though my job is hyper dangerous, one of the most dangerous jobs you can have in the military, but it's also like the most rewarding because you're doing all of these things, you're really figuring it out, and no one can tell you how to do it. They can just say, please just keep doing it. Can you do it faster? Can you do it more? And so
Right.
you're just looking for those kind of responses to even know, like, you have to like look in the, like when we find planets, you don't look for the planet, you look for the sun and see if like the light wobbles. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that, where you're trying to not look directly at the thing you're looking for, and you see if that you can see the reflection of it over there. And if you do, you're like, ah, there it is. And then you test it and you go, is it really there? Or is that a mirage? And then all of a sudden you realize I can see mirages. And you go, oh my God.
Mm.
And they can't. My peers can't see the mirage. They don't know to test. Oh, and now I have a system and look out. That's when I really jump forward.
Right. And you said you are competitive by nature. And I think that what you learned as you started to see what's interesting about this, Pete, is that you've always said in your life, as even as a youngster, as you were growing up, you were paying attention. Then when you are in one of the more dangerous jobs in the military, you realize this is the most important way that you can learn how to pay attention in a critical and really important way.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that the art of paying attention. There's a fantastic book that I read. I think it's Anna Konikova, I believe is her name. It's
Mm.
called the Art of the Bluff.
Mm.
So this is a woman who is a reporter and had some challenging things happen in her life and financially, and she did some kind of article in the New Yorker about high stakes poker,
Mm.
and she was like, this is pretty interesting. I'd like to learn a little bit more. So she decided to jump in and be a high stakes poker player for a year. So she talked to one of the masters of poker, right? Like, I mean, this is a pretty niche
Yeah. Right.
niche
Right.
world, right?
Right.
Right. So she talked to kind of like the Mr. Miyagi
Yeah.
of poker. And what he said is, he said, look, because he said, look, some people count cards, and some people are good at poker because of maths. Are you good at maths? And she was like, no, but I'm good at understanding people. And he's like,
Hmm.
aha, okay. If you can start understanding people, I can train you how to be really good at poker.
Yeah.
And the number one rule that he gave her was pay attention. That's it.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the cards that are face up on the table. Pay attention to the cards in your hand. Pay attention to when people are putting money in the pot or not putting cards. Just pay attention to their response. Pay attention. It seems to me like for you in your life are cultivating the art of paying attention.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of that when I play poker, and I'm not any good at poker, but I've beaten people without looking at my cards. And I've done
Uh-huh.
that a number of times. I haven't always won that bet, but
Uh-huh.
I've gotten some pretty good hands at the right time and just beat them on them. And there is something to that. Look, I'm not prescient, I'm not omniscient, I'm not even good at poker, but you
Paying
know,
attention makes a difference.
it does. It does. Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
It does in life. It does in life. It does in interactions. I
Yeah.
mean, I think for you, so after your military service, now,
Hmm.
you know, you have a podcast. You talk with hundreds of people. You
Sure.
engage. So I imagine it's a question, but maybe it's a statement. I believe that you pay attention during these conversations.
Yeah, and I'm looking for certain things. So once I learned how to ask questions, and I'll say this: for the most part, I don't prepare for my show at all because I didn't get to prepare when I went on patrols. And I look at this as like really the same kind
Huh.
of thing. I'm still just doing the same spy job, and the show is the report. And so I don't need to look. I read the books and I do a lot of things, but I'm already prepared when I show up because I've been through all of these scenarios and I could talk about anything. I've learned this for years. So my preparation is in the past. Now I'm just reading the book for color or something else. And sometimes I read the book and I'm like, I've got enough of the book in my head now. I don't need to read anymore because now I can do another thing. And so it's not that I don't want to read the book, but it just I
You
don't
get the
need to.
pick.
I reached the point
Yeah.
of like I've finished what I need to do, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And what I'm listening to, I'm not listening to, I'm listening for, right? It's exactly what I'm doing. And when I find that thing I'm listening for, I now know to stop, slow down, back up, dig deep, explore, find the gold, bring it to the surface. Same exact thing I did when I was in the army or when I was working with the army was I could go out on the same patrol as everybody else and bring the commander something that nobody else brought them. And the quality of my intel was always good. And even though it doesn't sound very sexy, I was giving them information on how to run their machine. So I'm looking
Hmm.
over the mountain, and if I can find threat, okay, great. There's dangerous guys over there. But if I can, the thing I would say is, in the military, we try to look for a needle in a haystack, and I'm like, that's great. All of you guys focused on that. You go comb through those haystacks and let me know. And if I find one, I'm gonna give it to you. I would give away threat data all the time.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go one field over, where it's a field of needles. We'll see if the boss likes that. So I'm just throwing needles in my wheelbarrow. I'd be like, I got a bunch of needles. And they would be like, well, how did you get all this information? I'm like, well, I just am looking in the right spots. I'm not looking for stuff that nobody wants me to know. I'm looking for stuff that's just commonly available. You've got to be good at it. But
Hmm.
I changed my orientation to something away from threat so that people, and here's the other thing I did. We haven't really talked about this, but I learned how to build trust. And so part of my
Mm.
openness is like, hey, no, look, yeah, I'm Pete. And I use my real name all the time. Everywhere I went, I'm Pete. Like, no, use a fake name. And I'm like, no, I'm Pete. I'm not lying to these people. They're going to know from my heart inside. And it's a sales job too. So if I believe in what I'm selling, then I can sell it better. If I don't believe in it. So I always had to like work through what I was going to say and how I was going to say it so that I was being, just me and just saying the things that I knew. And that started when I first showed up to a commander. And I can tell you, any battalion, any brigade commander, these guys like run 1,000, 5,000 people organizations. I can go up to those guys and I can say, you don't know me. I've got a lot of experience in the field. I've got, and I can do my credentials real fast. And like the
Mhm.
most important thing is I don't have to look to know what your mission statement is. It's going to be these four things. And then I just tell them the four things because they're the same for everybody. Like, and I say, because they're the same for everybody. And all of your peers have told me to tell you this. And so this is all the colonels I've worked for and they told me to say like you're gonna not get what I do right now. You're gonna put me in the wrong spot under the wrong people. I just need access to the field. And in 3 weeks you'll get what I do. And in 3 months you're gonna look at me and you're gonna say, Pete, you're our number one force multiplier. We couldn't have got here this fast without you. We would have got here, but you've changed everything. Anytime you want access to me, you come in. You have open spot on my couch. So this is what I'm telling them. And you're gonna say that to me in about 3 months. You don't have to say it because I already know you're gonna say it. I'm just going to go earn it. And then they're like, all right,
Right.
motherfucker, go do it.
Right. Right.
And then I
Okay.
do.
Go do.
And then I do. And I look at them about 3 months later, and I don't know when it happens. I don't cue it. They're like, you know what? You got me. You're right. You did it. And I also throw a Napoleon quote in there. Like, can you guys all say this? Say this. I'm saying this to you. It's all your colonel friends telling you this. Audacity, audacity, audacity. And I'm like, God damn it. Because I learned this with
Yeah.
Commander. And I could build
Right.
instant, fast trust. Now, I don't know how to do that with everybody, but I spoke Commander. I understood the essence of their mission. And I had to learn how to speak Sergeant Major, who's the right hand man of the commander. I had to learn
Right.
how to work with the staff because all of these things presented problems for me. But as I got better and better at navigating the unit that I was serving so that I built trust with them so that I could then go and do my real job. instead of having to work
Right.
so hard on them.
Right. Because that's the thing, because your primary mission was field work. It was not the
Right.
internal politics of handling the staff that was there.
Right.
And for you to understand, yeah, I'm going to say this phrase and I mean the exact same thing, but I'm going to say it differently to the sergeant major than the battalion
That's
commander, to
right.
the actual sergeant,
Yeah.
than to the private. I'm going to say it differently because, again, you were paying attention to how they would listen to you.
Or how they fired
You
me. Like, get out of here. Like, oh
get
man, what
out
did
of
I do
here.
wrong? Yeah. I got kicked off a lot of camps because I'm a problem. I'm like bad news Pete, right? And so when I bring bad
Right.
news and they're not prepared for it, then I can't change the news. I've got
Sure.
4 things I can deliver: help the commander win more, help the commander win less, or help the commander win more and lose less, help the enemy lose more and win less. Like those are my 4 things I can deliver. Sometimes
Right.
it's all in one piece of information. But if I don't mind the sergeant major, I don't help him with any of that. That's not his job. And I had to figure out
Right.
how do I make him a client without how do I amplify? And so I figured out what those guys needed. And for them, I could help them maintain the standard in a way that I was an extra set of eyes and ears for them, but they had to protect me. So if I go out and I'm like, if I see someone doing something great, I want to tell you about it so that you can do
Yeah.
your job. And they're like, oh man, I'd love that. Please. And I'm like, and if I have bad news, you got to protect me because I got to go out with these guys. And they're like, no, I know how to do that. And so I would come back
Right.
like, listen, truck 5, not doing it. And he's like, don't worry, I got you. And then all of a sudden you'd find out truck 5, you got in trouble. It wasn't me. I didn't say anything.
Right. No, exactly. No, I think also too that, I think when you go through life, you meet different people who, I think as humans, we just do this. Are you help or hinder?
Right.
Are you advocate or are you, threat? Are you someone who can move my life forward or someone who, either harms my life or actually slows me down? And
Right.
I think what happens is that when, there are certain people who do different things to other folks, but I kind of think there are some folks that are naturally energetic in a positive way. You seem to be like that kind of person.
When I get it right.
When you get it right, of course. But I think you practice it. I think that
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. What you've talked about is that you didn't always get it right, but then you try to learn and practice. I mean, I think it's really hard for men to articulate the value of practice.
Mm.
And I think that it's hard for men sometimes to pay attention like you did to that, especially young men. I think that young men have a hard time understanding the value of practice, knowing that it's not a payoff right now, but if you practice every single day, 3 months, 3 years, 30
Yeah.
years, that's when the payoff actually happens.
Yeah. 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 And I'm a big believer in we all do this, but I get way more things wrong than I get right. And what I learn from those things won't be born for a long time. And so it's
Right.
okay for me to be wrong about something. My ego is in check now. I mean, most of the time. And what, so when someone says you got this wrong, like, oh, maybe I do. I don't know. It wouldn't be like the first or last time. So yeah, maybe let me back up. Even if I
Right.
know I'm right, I have to accept that. I make mistakes. I will make more mistakes that I have no idea about in my life than the ones I
Isn't that
do know about.
funny?
Yeah, it's
Isn't
true.
that funny that we go through life and we make mistake and we don't even know we did it. We leave some kind of goofy wake behind us that
Mm-hmm.
ruffles somebody else's boat. And we're like, oh, sorry, didn't even know.
Yeah. You don't matter to me. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I might have approached that differently,
Right.
and I always say like there's 100 ways to skin a cat. There's 100 ways to not skin a cat. And they're all the same way. And so you just got to pick the same path, a path and just be like this, it's going to be what it is. And some of that you can control, but a lot of it you just can't. And you just like, here's my effort, here's where I'm going to put it in, and I'm going for that target. And if I end up over here, like I can't control where the Plinko disc goes, but I am playing
Right.
Plinko, and so if I'm playing Plinko and I'm doing all right, then okay. And if I lose, you know what? That's one of the outcomes that's possible when you play Plinko. Sometimes you just don't win. And that's fine. I'm just going to get back and go do something else or go again or whatever it is.
That's right. That's right. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, I still think you're a unicorn.
Oh,
I
what a good
think
thing
it's
to say to
awesome.
someone. Yeah. Thank you.
No,
That's
it's so great. It's true. So I have a question that I ask all of my guests. The last question is, who is someone that you know that I don't know that I should know?
I know my buddy Hal Bradley. And
Hal
I
Bradley.
will set it up. Yeah, Hal is great. Hal was a drug lord of the first order. Like, just he moved a lot of stuff, and
Wow.
he has completely changed his life. And he's a remarkable man for a lot of reasons, but he is and we are very similar. We both were field agents. We both have tried to find ways to make amends for, and I wasn't the world's worst person, but I've done people wrong a lot of times because I was
Mhm.
immature, I was impetuous, I was all the bad things. And so both of us can sit outside of judgment and just let someone be somebody, be folks, and let them be. I've talked to warlords, and they were my friends, and I care about them. Right? These are warlords. These are horrible people,
Right.
and you realize that, like, if I can do that, then I'm going to do my best not to judge anybody. Now, look, sometimes I fail at that, right? But that's practice, and you don't have to be perfect in your practice. You just have to understand what it is. And so, yeah, how would be a great person for you to know?
I love that. That was such a beautiful close. You don't have to be perfect when you practice,
Yeah.
but you keep practicing. Pete, you're fantastic.
Oh,
Such a
thanks,
great
man.
conversation.
Oh, love it.
I love it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too.
Well, hey, Pete Turner, let's go. Oh, wow. What a great conversation. What a great man. I love how he had a moment way back when he was just kind of paying attention to himself and picked up on his friend from Costco and said, yeah, I could be a spy. And what an interesting way to think about changing your life, very intentionally. Like, he intentionally said, I'm going to go into a completely different direction. And that choice changed the course of his entire life. Like, that tree branch went off onto that direction and all those other branches gone. This is the branch he's going to work through and cultivate and develop. And this position, this responsibility, has now crafted a lot of who he is. He's the man he is because he had to do that. And what did I learn from Pete? Man, pay attention. Be perceptive. Think of what's happening around you and be aware of people, places, and situations. Right? He is a unicorn of a guy to make this happen for himself. But what I learned from him is I could do a much better job of paying attention every day, listening to people, thinking about people, and figuring out how to help them, figuring out how to work with them, and engage in a way that's meaningful and true. And although my life literally doesn't depend on me getting it right, I could get it a lot better than I have. And so that's what I learned from Pete. Pay attention and be more perceptive with the people around me all the time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you join the podcast. Visit menfolkjourneys.com and book a conversation, because I know you have a great story to share, and I know you have a lesson to tell all of us. Thank you for listening. Word bid Falared.